Hi guys, I'm here at the home of Linda and Mike Sackett here in Chester, and I'm going to share with you an amazingly inspiring, empowering story of how Linda has helped transform her husband's health.
Years ago, I was working on a type 2 diabetes study called SMBG, self-monitoring of blood glucose for type 2 diabetics. And it became quickly apparent that by following the current guidance on diet, that their blood sugars were just going higher and higher and higher. So with the patients that I was caring for, I kind of put the power back in their hands and said, why don't you experiment? And it was so telling. It was all of the things like the breakfast cereals, the healthier breakfast cereals. You know, this was muesli and Weetabix and things that were considered good for type 2 diabetics. And then we said, right, okay, try some eggs, try some bacon, and their blood sugars were completely stable. I first knew something was very wrong when he phoned me from the rowing club and said, I've had the most intense session, the most physically exerting session I've ever had, and I feel nauseous. And as a nurse, I just thought nausea, cardiac, that was the first thing that came to my head. And I said, I'm coming to get you. He was stumbling, he couldn't walk properly. I think your legs had begun to give way at that point, and I literally bundled him into the car, and I just drove up the wrong side of the road into the hospital and saw somebody coming out at the end of a shift and just screamed at them to help, got him into resus. And that's when because I used to be an ECG technician, it was like plain as day that he was having a heart attack. I completely lost the run of myself. I didn't feel like a nurse anymore. Just my knees were giving way. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was terrified.
Well, when we look at heart disease now, and myself being someone who's been a qualified doctor almost 17 years, I'm a consultant cardiologist for several years. Poor diet actually is responsible now for more disease and death globally than physical inactivity, smoking and alcohol combined. And when one looks at heart disease, you could argue at least 50% of heart disease is linked to poor diet specifically. And most of that, 80%, is lifestyle related. So, you know, looking at the science and having researched this myself for several years and trying to tease through really what's an epidemic of misinformation and confusion, often influenced by commercial influence, you know, I wanted to produce a plan that was based upon the best available evidence that people could adopt, and really a prescription, if you like, for people to prevent heart disease, but also, in Mike's case, be part of the treatment plan. Pioppi is a village in southern Italy. It's considered one of the world's healthiest villages, and it has a population of around 200 people. The average life expectancy there is close to 90 for both men and women. A lot of people live over the age of 100. And myself and my co-author of the book, a former international athlete, Donald O'Neill, we went to this village to try and discover the secrets of what it was that made them live healthy for a very long period of time. So we call a healthy lifespan.
Yes.
There's no chronic disease there. They're not taking lots of pills into old age. They're very active. And how do we marry those secrets with the best available evidence that we have around nutrition and lifestyle and health, so that we can empower people to change their life for the better?
No, I was a bit of a junk food addict. So the usual, probably skip breakfast, a few biscuits at sort of mid-morning coffee break, sandwich lunchtime, come home, open a bag of crisps, have a bottle of beer, cook supper, which probably consisted of pasta. I knew I was slightly overweight, probably more than slightly overweight, but didn't feel it was sort of affecting me health-wise.
I felt a horrible feeling of how had I allowed this to happen in the first place. I felt very responsible that I was a nurse, I wasn't stupid. this was my husband, and this was going on under my roof, and I allowed this, and I felt awful. And I'd always kind of been a people pleaser, and I thought, I don't care if he hates me. I don't care if he chucks me. I am not going to allow him to eat any more crap. That's it. And we're gonna fix him. Yeah. And I thought, right, if it's good enough for a cardiologist, it's good enough for Mike. I tell you what I feel, and I feel this is absolutely amazing. When I've had one of what I would call my proper Pioppi dinners, you could wheel in the contents of Hotel Chocolat, and I couldn't even manage a morsel. And that's not from a feeling of, oh, my trousers are so tight, I'm so full after Christmas lunch, where I could have a whole box of Hotel Chocolat. It's a kind of a mental thing. You're absolutely satiated, and you just couldn't. And that to me is great, because I've spent 48 years being hungry. So so I think, oh, isn't that marvellous? I'm not being led by my stomach. I mean, our normal thing before you had your heart attack would be that we'd have what we thought was a very nutritious dinner and a whole bar of Galaxy. I never remember you being as slim as you are now. Since you've gone from a 40-inch waist to 34 since September. Yeah.
And I think one of the most powerful things that I've learned as a doctor, having trained as an interventional cardiologist doing keyhole heart surgery on people, is that lifestyle changes are more powerful than any drug at preventing and treating heart disease, and they come without side effects. They also improve your quality of life. You know, one of the problems we have, Susie, at the moment is we have a massive problem of over-medicated population. You know, more than 50% of patients aged over the age of 70 are on at least 3 medications. This is extraordinary. And prescribed drugs, what your doctor prescribes for you, is now responsible, is, you know, the 3rd most common cause of death after heart disease and cancer. So we've got a real problem here. And prescribed medications, in most part, whether for treating all these chronic diseases that we're trying to deal with in the NHS at the moment, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, although they have some marginal effect at best, the one thing they can't do is improve the quality of your life. Yeah. The only thing they can do actually from side effects is make your quality of life worse. The alternative, and what should be at the forefront, is lifestyle changes. Not only will they help you live healthy for longer, but they can only improve your quality of life in most cases. Yeah. You said it already, simple lifestyle changes. So it's avoiding processed food, particularly too much refined carbohydrates in your diet, too much sugar. It's about making sure you're not sedentary, so just simple, you know, making sure you're always moving. Walking is probably the best thing you can do to prevent heart disease. Getting a good sleep, you know, really important. Reducing stress levels through social interaction. If you attack all of these, if you incorporate all of these things into your life and make them a priority, then actually your risk of getting chronic disease is massively reduced.
I think this has got to be mainstream. You know, this has got to be driven out there for everybody to know about. You know, when Mike was on the ward in the hospital, there was patients with like 6 packs of Lucozade and grapes and energy bars and biscuits, and you know, and that was just seen as normal. And I think it's terrifying that we had to go against current medical advice in order to get him to where he is today. There's nobody ever going to look after you like you're going to look after yourself. And you have to get out there and you have to find the best way of eating. You've got to do research. And that's really unfortunate that you have to go and look. You know, it shouldn't be that way. There's enough documented evidence out there that says that this is the way to eat, to prevent heart disease, to prevent chronic illness, to prevent type 2 diabetes. People shouldn't have to look. You know, you should be able to go to your doctor and they should be able to tell you, look, this is the way to go.